Have you ever thought luxury was just about your closet, your vacation, or your social status? Here's the truth. The richest women I know, regardless of bank account, they are wealthy in one thing that matters most, their sense of worth. Today, we're going to talk about how to cultivate a mindset of internal luxury, why women who wait for external validation are stuck, and how reclaiming your worthiness from within changes everything from your relationships, your career, to everything else in your life. Stay tuned. We're going to dig in. Welcome to the Secret Formula of Femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Montero, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Nicole, your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence. As always, I have a story for us to start with, and this one I think is going to touch a lot of people. I used to work with a woman, and I will call her Jasmine. She had a high-powered career, a beautiful apartment, and a wardrobe that looked like it belonged on a magazine cover. It was fierce, but she was constantly feeling less than. She thought she needed the next designer bag. She thought she needed the social media applause or partner approval to feel worthy. And we couldn't understand why she felt so low about herself. When we started to dig in, I realized that her struggle wasn't external. It wasn't about the things outside. It was internal. She had been overachieving her entire life. She was used to proving her worth. Just like many of the women that I work with, they are proving, and producing. Once she began practicing internal luxury, that is self validation, honoring her boundaries, and focusing on what truly mattered, everything started to shift. And people noticed it, even those people around her. Suddenly, her energy attracted aligned partners, aligned opportunities, and experiences that matched her internal worth that she had developed, not her external display of what she thought people wanted to see from her. So, this episode is for all of the Jasmines out there, for every woman who's ever felt like she's chasing external things, external markers, instead of cultivating her own sense of value from within. If this is you, you want to stick around. So let's bust some myths that are all around about luxury, about worth, and about validation. The first myth is about material things. Luxury is not about material things. The truth is, even the research backs this up. Neuroscience research shows that external possessions, things outside of us, give temporary dopamine hits, but they do not create long-term self-worth. So that dopamine is hitting, but it doesn't really stick with you. It doesn't last to make you feel really worthy inside. Myth number two that a lot of women believe is that you need approval to feel worthy. The truth is that self-compassion and internal validation are what create sustainable confidence. That is confidence that lasts through the ups and the downs, the good times and the bad times. The third myth is that soft women aren't strong. Stop the presses, everybody. I want you to know that is the biggest myth, and I hear it all the time. Some of the strongest women I know are soft women, including myself. We are resilient. We're able to be flexible and nimble. We're able to tap into an inner strength that really gets us through all of the different phases and seasons in life. The truth is that softness paired with boundaries and self-awareness is actually magnetic. It's persuasive and it is deeply powerful. So you don't have to feel like you have to harden up on the outside. It's really about tapping into the inner self that is going to show people how you feel about yourself. The fourth myth is that luxury is for rich people only. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard women kind of try to brush away wealth or a sense of luxury or treating themselves, saying that they don't connect with it because they're not, quote, rich. What they don't know is that luxury is a mentality. Mental luxury is being deliberate in your reflection, your self awareness, what you prioritize for yourself, and your emotional abundance. This is accessible to every woman, regardless of income bracket or income level. We all, yes, want to get the bag, but what's most important before we even get there is elevating ourselves from within. I always tell the story about traveling to different parts of the world. Some of the countries are considered poor, but I have run into the most internally luxurious, soft, feminine women because they know how to treat themselves. They walk with grace and they have an inner sense of confidence that just screams luxury. On the other hand, I've seen people made up from head to toe, nails, makeup, face beat, bags, everything, and they are lacking that. And you can feel it. You can tell that they don't have that internal sense of worth, which translates into coming off as luxurious because of how you feel about yourself. So I want us to take a pause right now. Pause for 20 to 30 seconds and close your eyes and think about one moment where you felt truly worthy from within. Not due to external validation, not due to what you look like and how you compared yourself to others, but truly from within. How did that feel? Were you able to tap into a time? And if you didn't, that's okay. I'm going to teach you how you can create future moments and memories where you tap into that inner luxury within yourself. So let's get into the science of it. There is actually a neuroscience of worthiness. What we call internal validation, that is when you feel good from within yourself because of the values and the standards that you have determined, not from what people outside are saying. Internal validation activates the part of the brain up here called the prefrontal cortex, and specifically regions that are associated with decision making, confidence, and stress regulation. And you've heard me talk about the frontal cortex is like that more advanced part of the brain that developed later. That's what makes humans humans. We have a fully developed prefrontal cortex, and it's what's in charge of all of those executive functions, those things about how we think, how we plan, our sense of self, how we regulate ourselves. And when we're in the fight or flight mode, we are regulated or we're being controlled by a part of our brain called the limbic system. And that's an important part too. It protects us because it's able to look out for danger. But we don't want to always be in that mode where we're looking for danger. We're thinking, in a modern sense, when we are not feeling worthy, that activates that limbic system in the brain where we're looking for danger because not feeling worthy, not feeling connected, not feeling like we have a sense of value, it makes us feel like we're in danger from a social perspective, right? So when we're able to tap into that internal validation, we're really stimulating the part of the brain that says, hey, you're safe, you're at ease, you can do that higher level thinking and functioning and planning. You don't have to be looking out for danger, danger, danger. And on the opposite end, external validation actually triggers, as I said earlier, that short term dopamine hit or spike. And it's great. Dopamine is an important neurotransmitter. We need it to feel a sense of reward, to feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. But it's like any drug that puts you up. You cannot live on that alone. You need balance. And so when we have these short term dopamine hits or spikes, we end up sometimes feeling empty after that. It's like a really strong hit, it's intense, but it's really quick and it drops. And then if we don't have anything else to balance it out, like a sense of internal self worth, we are going to feel empty. And then the cycle continues. And it's like any cycle that you feel caught up in. If you've ever had a cycle of eating out of control or doing any other kind of behavior that you didn't want to do, but you felt like you weren't in control of it, it's because you're going through these ups and downs. And so when you're constantly seeking outside validation, whether it's comparing yourself to what you see on social media, comparing yourself or keeping up with the Joneses, as we used to say, buying things that you don't have money for, retail therapy, pouring, dumping junk food and processed food into yourself because it gives you that quick hit. when you're constantly doing that, you're on a roller coaster, trying to feel good. It lasts for a quick minute, you feel empty again, and then you're chasing the next high. What you really want is balance, and that's what the internal self worth is about. The second area of research that's really important is around attachment and relationships. So, women with high internal self worth tend to attract partners who respect boundaries and communicate effectively. Studies by the Gottman Institute and others show that couples where women have a strong self worth report higher satisfaction and better conflict resolution. Ladies, you know how I always say that women in their feminine, they really set the tone. They drive the relationship. Not in the sense that they're the ones that put all the energy into it, but their approach and their stance and their way of being can make the relationship more peaceful. So when you're feeling good about yourself, you are modeling how you expect to be treated, and the whole relationship benefits as well as you, because you attract a more steady partner. I always tell women, you want to pick a partner that is able to be with you through the ups and downs. And that means they have to be internally balanced themselves. You don't want a hothead, somebody who can't control his emotions. That is so immature. And we are grown ladies. We're not looking for immature little boys who can't control their emotions, who are wrapped up in their feminine. Okay. So I just had to put that out there as a side note. Okay, so the third area of research that's really important with this is within social psychology. And so that's how we perceive ourselves in relationship to others. Perceived self worth is strongly connected or correlated with professional success and relationship satisfaction. Basically, women who embody, they just exude internal luxury, they naturally project confidence, and then therefore they are perceived as magnetic. People are drawn to them, but it starts within. A lot of times we feel like we have to get the validation first and then we'll feel good about ourselves. We're looking for someone to say, you're worth it. And then we'll say, okay, I'm going to do the things that show I'm worth it. You know, it's the opposite. We have to put the effort out first. I always tell a story that one of my mentors in a group coaching community that I'm actually a part of, he talks about the two different scenarios where one person is out hitchhiking, they're just looking for a ride, their car is broke down, and they're just saying, hey, can somebody give me a ride, or can somebody help? And a lot of people, most people would tend to just pass that person by. Somebody's going to stop, but again, it's not most people. But then that same person, you take that same person and put them in a scenario where it looks like they're trying to push their car, or they're trying to change the tire, they're trying to do something to help their situation. People will tend to run to help. People like to join momentum. They're like, hey, this person is doing something that looks like they're trying to make it happen. Let me join in and assist, right? So think about that for yourself. People will start to validate when you look like you're good within yourself. People like to join momentum and join a so-called winner versus you looking for them to validate you, like the hitchhiker, right? And if they don't, you start feeling badly about yourself. So that projected self-confidence is really magnetic. People are drawn to it and they actually run to it. That's why they say, the number one tool for men and women with attraction is confidence. Confidence is key and it is very attractive. All right, so let's get back to Jasmine. Remember, I told you she was looking for so much external validation. Well, her energy shifted when she started to prioritize internal worth, not the latest bag, the latest trend, and the latest compliment. She stopped waiting for people to approve her, whether it was whoever she was dating or trying to be in a relationship with, and instead she created her own internal wealth. Within months, her life started to really reflect that energy. And when I tell you guys, when you start to do the internal work, it's not like it takes years and years. And, I hear people say, I got to just go into seclusion because I got to work on myself. No, once you start, yes, it's an ongoing process, but you start to see shifts and changes in a really brief amount of time. Now, it doesn't mean stop, but it just gives you that encouragement to keep going. So, with Jasmine, within months, her life started to reflect that energy. She had more aligned work opportunities and consulting opportunities. Her friendships were different. She was connecting to people that she wanted to spend time with, and she had a more satisfying romantic connection. Actually, Jasmine contacted me and told me she was engaged, and she said this was the man of her dreams. So let that speak for itself. Okay, so let's talk about some practical tips for how you actually develop that internal sense of luxury, of wealth, and of self worth. Number one, for any woman who wants to tap into her feminine, it's your morning routine. How you start the day sets the tone. I tell every woman to start with an affirmation. Number one, it's proven, it actually changes your brain chemistry when you repeat affirmations and start to believe them. But number two, it is quick, it is easy, it doesn't cost a thing, and you can be doing affirmations and people don't even have to know. You say them in your head, or you have them on your phone, or you have them as part of your shower routine, lotioning yourself. You say things like, I am enough, I am worthy, I create my life with ease and elegance. That is one of my favorite ones because once you get to the point where you feel like I am enough, you feel like you're worthy, you want to get more specific. And for me, ease and elegance and femininity, those are the characteristics that I aspire to. So I speak them with my affirmations. I am also part of another community for those of us who are creatives and have a digital presence. And we have a t shirt that says, I create digital wealth. And I was like, yes, that is really on point. So as you're tapping into your inner worthiness and your inner luxury, you say specific affirmations. So this one I love. I create my life with ease and elegance. And you can throw in there with luxury or anything that you want to. The other thing is visualization. As you're doing your affirmations, you want to actually imagine the day unfolding that aligns with that affirmation. What kind of opportunities would pop up for you? How would you show yourself self respect? How will you envision or imagine joy flowing from you and to you? All right, so you pair up those affirmations with those visualizations. The second tip is micro luxuries. You all know I love micro because it means you can do it. You're not going to think about it, you're going to do it. Treat yourself intentionally. A quiet cup of coffee, journaling, light movement or stretching, a walk, meditation, or reading. These are things that get you into the practice of pouring back into yourself. I love this practice that I have developed. My morning starts early and I have certain things that I do in my morning routine to get my energy up, to make sure I'm balanced. But after the kids are at school, when I come back home, I take my time. I have my nice coffee. And you all know I love my Beyond Brew. I put my collagen in it, um, sea moss, and all of the things that I want to nourish myself. And I take my time and I sit in stillness as I drink my coffee. It tastes good. I know I'm putting good stuff into myself, but I'm also centering myself. And I'm saying there is nothing that's that important that I can't give myself 15 minutes to just sit with myself, contemplate, think, imagine, envision, dream, whatever it is, but I allow myself to sit in stillness. So I want you to think about what are the small moments that you can take for yourself where you're really practicing micro luxury. The third tip is to really see boundaries as a luxury. Saying no when needed and protecting your energy is so important. It's a luxury for you as a feminine woman. Softness does not equal permissiveness. It's back to that myth that we talked about, where people think a soft woman is going to be run all over. No, the boundaries are what protect your integrity, your energy. And if you see them as a luxury, you'll be more excited because you'll understand that when you're saying no, you're actually pouring back into the part of you that is luxurious and that is developing that inner self worth. So remember, softness does not equal permissiveness. All right, tip number 4, energy alignment in your relationships. You need to evaluate whether your interactions honor your internal self worth. You lead with confidence, you set clear intentions, and you attract partners and friends who match your energy. Point blank, full stop. That's how it works. I remember when I had to do an audit of my relationships, and I had to think about the people that were in my life that would be throwing this subtle, what they thought was subtle shade, saying things that kind of downplayed my, things that I was excited about whether it was my accomplishments, things that I was doing, new things I was excited about, my family, my kids, my husband, they would downplay it. And I understood that that was them projecting their insecurity or whatever was going on with them. We do face people who are envious of us in the ways that not really what we have, but the ways that we go through life where they see us being happy regardless. And I had to really do an audit and ask myself, is it worth being connected to this person just because we have history or I know them in a certain context? If they are constantly throwing shade, they're making comments. Someone said to me, "Oh, your little business, your little, you know, social media, your little this and that," or, kind of just downplaying various things that were important to me. And I had to ask myself, what am I getting out of this? Is this really reciprocal? What is the point of it? And I decided in many instances that it was not aligned with me. And you know how when you go to certain pages on social media, people will say, they'll make an announcement that they are leaving. I'm unfollowing. Well, you don't have to do that in life. You can decide what's aligned with you or not. If you want to have discussions with people, that is great. But if you don't, that's okay too. You just start to move in a way that is aligned with who you are becoming. All right. So, tip number 5 is really practicing reflection exercises. Sometimes we like to stay in our head, and sometimes we just need to put it out on paper, which is why I love journaling. A really great journaling prompt that I love is, where did I honor myself today? Or on the other hand, where did I let external approval dictate my choices? And it's okay. We all have those moments. We all, even me. I can talk about this stuff all day, but it is something that I have to practice. I have to check in with myself and determine if I let external approval, if I let inner insecurity, if I let any ways that people were projecting their insecurities onto me, that I let that dictate my choices, how I showed up, and how I felt. And it's okay. We always get a do over. We always get it, God willing, if we're living tomorrow. So, doing that check in with yourself and that reflection helps you to build the muscle of honoring yourself. And then in the evening, you can do an evening review. You don't really even have to journal this. You can just note one or two micro moments where you acted from internal luxury and just give yourself a pat on the back because that's a real win. All right, I want you to take 30 seconds. You can hit pause and write down one way you can create internal luxury starting tomorrow. We're not overthinking it, we're not looking for external validation. What is one thing that you can start to do to create that internal luxury tomorrow? All right, so let's get into the Q&A. I love you all's questions. Make sure you always DM me, send me an email, a message through the links in the show notes. All right, question 1 is, I struggle to feel worthy without social approval. How do I start to change that? One is to start with one micro practice, whether it's an affirmation, a reflection, setting one boundary. Small wins tend to snowball and they compound and they get bigger and bigger. And then you get more courage and bravery, and you get more courage to set better boundaries and do more to validate your internal self worth. There is a time and a place to try to understand why that is. A lot of it is from our family of origin. We were told that our value came from performing and being productive or making everyone happy, right? But while you're trying to understand why, it is so important that you start to take action. Sometimes we get really caught up in looking backwards. And I know this as a therapist, I help people to look backwards. But sometimes we have to balance that and understand that we don't have to have all of the answers in order to start moving forward and taking action and acting small actions and building up small wins. That was a great question. Okay, question number 2 is, does this mean that I stop enjoying luxury things? Absolutely not. If I could do a sound, no, like that is a myth that cultivating internal self worth means that you don't want to actually enjoy luxury things. I enjoy luxury restaurants, luxury travel, luxury items that feel good and smell good. But the key is to enjoy them consciously, not because you need them to fill up a sense of emptiness or a void that you have inside. Internal luxury lets you appreciate external things without depending on them for validation, right? That's the key. It's about your intention and how you're being more conscious within yourself. The third one, I love this. How do I maintain this mindset with a critical partner or family or friends? You have to consistently align with your internal standards. You have to tell yourself that external opinions do not define your worth. You have to remind yourself that what other people think about you, say about you, feel about you in many cases is none of your business. That is a reflection of them and where they are. You have to remind yourself of this, and you have to tell yourself that your internal standards are what you're striving for, not anybody else's comments. And eventually you'll be able to just brush them off because you know it's about them and not you. Question 4 is, can internal luxury really change my relationships and career? Absolutely. Energy attracts opportunity. Women with strong internal self worth draw partners, colleagues, and clients who match their mindset. Let me tell you, when I started leveling up how I felt about myself, who I was around, who I attracted, who reached out to me completely shifted. So, yes, it absolutely can change the opportunities that you see for yourself. So, as a reminder, luxury begins in the mind. External markers like clothes, money, social approval, those are icing on the cake, but the actual cake itself is your self worth, your confidence, and your sense of internal abundance. If you're ready to cultivate internal luxury, you have to start with micro practices, affirmations, and deliberate boundaries. And you can do that today. If you want deeper guidance, you want to grab my book, The Boundaries to Bliss Blueprint, or if you want to be in a community of other women who are on the same path, join my inner circle community, the Boundaries to Bliss Society, for coaching, community, and exercises that are going to elevate your internal and your external life. Remember, external validation is optional, your worth is not. Luxury comes from and lives inside of you first. If this episode hit in any way for you, make sure you give us a like. I love getting your comments. Make sure you give us a review. It really helps. And share this with a woman in your life who has the potential to be even more luxurious when she taps into her inner self worth. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Dr. Nicole.